Let's talk about a post that I've been on recently and something that I see often in the nutrition wellness world. And that is referencing a lot of, whether it be ancient religious texts, scriptures, ancestral diets, things from many hundreds to many thousands of years ago to reference how to eat today. Now, there's a couple issues I have with that. One being, we've evolved a lot. It's hard to kind of see today. Now, we always convince ourselves that we are in a civilized society and we've been evolved from primal, primitive tribes into this civilized society. However, there might be a little bit to that. However, I feel like more of what's happened is we've been herded into dependency on a system. We are now dependent on our government system to help support us, as well as the grocery industry, food suppliers, and we've been pushed into other areas of work to kind of keep this industrialized economy, materialistic economy moving. And because of that, many of us don't even know how to live a self-sufficient life when it comes to foods, how we feed ourselves. And you can see it in any city environment where we're ordering DoorDash on a daily basis, grabbing our coffees, our quick microwave meals, and it's all terribly processed and factory created foods, unless you are buying just fresh fruits. Now, I always find it interesting when I hear the references to more religious or ancient texts from, say, a couple thousand years ago from the Bible, or things that Jesus has stated about drinking milk from cows in particular. Because one, again, we are in a very different consciousness than we were 2,000 years ago. Better or worse, I don't know yet. There's a lot of variance to this. One, in that the Industrial Revolution brought a very different energy system to animal agriculture. It has taken the compassion and sensitivity out of animal ag. And now animals are only seen as commodities that are making money and continuing this flow of profit. And, that's how the business works, right? You have the demand and you supply the demand. If there is no demand, then they don't need to supply it anymore. So as long as we continue drinking boatloads of milk and cheeses and dairy products, or eating meat, whatever you want to call it, you're creating the demand for the item. And they continue to produce more and more and more, which in that process is using cows in factory environments on factory machines, milking them several times a day to supply the system. If you think there's anything natural about that, you're insane. Now, on the flip side of that, I can appreciate anybody who takes the initiative to, one, source from local friends, local farm suppliers who are very small farms, either getting your own animals and working to get your own products that way. I still have issue with using these things from animals in the way that we do it. However, to have the conscious intention of sourcing your foods the way that you do is extremely important to how it affects our body. There is an energy to that. That goes along with this evolution of human consciousness. I see it a whole lot more, even in the last couple of years, of people who are having an awareness of knowing intuitively that they need to source their animal products in a different way. Not even just animal products, but all of their foods. More simple sourcing, raw, local foods. And that's great because that is the evolution of the human consciousness. Being able to see a flawed system that is doing harm and choosing different ways of eating. And it's very different to compare the way we eat today, the way our food is produced and packaged and processed and shipped and sold in grocery stores, as opposed to a time before anything like that has happened. Grocery stores are a very new thing. We've only had grocery stores for, I want to say the first official grocery store was opened up in like the early 1900s, I believe. I'm going to check that date and put it in the comments. There might have been like local markets where you kind of source with each other, but that was more of a bartering system where you produce milk for your neighbor and they give you some meat, something like that, or some quilting or whatever products that the other neighbor is producing. That is a really great system, and you're knowing what you're buying. But the way we have produced grocery stores is a system that has created, and they got big. Grocery stores became popular, ironically, around the time that women were beginning to get pushed into the workforce. And both people in the home were being more and more pressured to work outside the home to have a dual income household. And that has to do with taxes, more taxes for the government to use. It also has to do with breaking up the family home. It takes away the self-sufficiency that the women more or less helped anchor in the home of producing and making things from scratch, more simple living, whether it be farming, where both people were involved in the home environment, or the man was out working more and the woman really caretaked the home, homesteading. And that push for everyone to leave the home has taken an immense toll on our health overall, both physically, emotionally, spiritually. And our population is sicker than ever, particularly America. I'm prominently talking about American culture, because I've lived in London, but aside from that, I haven't lived in other places to be able to reference it. I'm speaking for America, and maybe it might be similar in other areas of the world too. But the Industrial Revolution brought a very different culture to the food industry. It has made it very much a disconnected from human compassion system where animals are a commodity, and that's it. And not only that, the way foods are processed and sanitized and pasteurized and created into the items that they are has destroyed any type of nutritional value that's really in any of it. You drink milk, should be raw milk. I don't drink it. I probably won't. I have, but I don't anymore. However, if you choose to, I would suggest finding raw milk. Meat is a whole nother topic. A true meat eater does not cook their meat. Cooking meat kills much of the nutrients, any nutritional quality that like a true carnivore will get. It's being killed when you're cooking it. A true carnivore, meat eater, will eat meat raw. Humans are the only being on the planet that cooks their meat or will eat it after it's been dead for a period of time. Aside from, we're talking about scavengers. But even then, they are taking the meat as it's starting to decay. They smell that, and that's kind of what brings them in. But the way, a raw food, meat included, has an energetic capacity to it. The electromagnetic frequency of our food is what fueling us. Not when we talk down at the macro level of all of the vitamins and the minerals and the nutrients. It's the electromagnetic frequency that gives us energy, which is why we can eventually begin evolving out of this idea of needing to eat 3 meals a day. That's insane. You don't need to eat 3 meals a day. Beginning to move away from that ideology of how we're supposed to eat by a schedule or by macros or by calorie counting, and listening to the needs of your body instead. Understanding when you can fast, when your body wants to fast. Like when you're sick, animals naturally know to fast when they're sick because it helps detox yourself. If you listen to yourself when you're sick, you're going to want to fast and rest and run it through your system. To be able to fast for several days at a time is really good for the body. And also being able to understand that we don't only get nutrients from our food. We don't only get nourished by our food. It's how we speak to ourselves, how we put ourselves out in the world, barefoot walking, touching the soil, hugging a tree, soaking in the sun, breathing in the air. All of those are ways, touching water, drinking water. Everything is an energetic exchange. And that is what nourishes the body. It isn't just what you're eating. And if anything, the focus on only food has created a denser frequency in our body. It's lowered our frequency. It creates a very dense energy in our body. As you start to clean all of that out, this purification process helps clean those shadows out. Those really old school ways of thinking. It's a very primitive way of thinking about food. Not even primitive. I don't even know the way of thinking about it. It's not even primitive. It's the opposite. It's almost too intellectual. It's too intellectual of breaking down the micromanagement of the body. And going back into a more primitive state is necessary to listen to your instincts. Of what is good nourishment. And even if we're talking about a time where man did eat meat, it was not in the large quantities that we do today. People build every single meal around meat, which is crazy. And I used to eat like that, so that's not even it's a judgment. It's a judgment I built in my own belief system. We should not be building every single meal around meat. It's very modern. It's very modernized thinking. And it does get pathological too. We're so addicted. That's where the addiction comes in. We're so addicted to foods that we're disconnected from what our body is actually nourished by. And that is where I've used the term nutritional consciousness because, and it's so hard to kind of break it down, but it is an evolution of our consciousness, being able to slowly see the way our food, the way you're eating is affecting your body, and the stages of coming out of that and moving into a more spiritually aligned way of eating. And I don't mean spiritually evolved in like a woo-wooey new agey way. I mean your own spirit being able to guide the way you eat and being more in tune with yourself, with spirit, source, all of nature, because we are interconnected with nature. We're not just here in nature. We are energetically intertwined with nature. And when you begin to connect with that, you have much more compassion and empathy and sensitivity to all of the beings around you. And then you are beginning to choose to do less harm, as little harm as you can. And the reality is supporting the animal egg industry that we have in present day America is supporting an extremely abusive and torturous industry. Dairy and meat. Seafood as well. So, and processed foods. All of it goes in the same category. And it might be one of the darkest shadows in our culture that people don't even want to see. Because once you start to see the immense harm done through the animal egg, the industrialized animal egg industry, you have to then choose to ignore it and keep eating how you want because you want to eat the foods that taste good. Or two, make a significant change for your life and for the life of the beings that live around you. All the other beings on this planet, the beings that are being forcibly impregnated in order to have babies to continue this animal egg industry, to be taken from their mothers and then killed. Mothers killed after years of being in dairy cows, they become meat cows. On and on and on. It is a horrific industry. And to turn a blind eye so that you can eat foods that taste good is choosing to be ignorant. It's that simple. To be able to see it and choosing to make choices so that you aren't supporting that industry while still eating meat and dairy is a step out of that system. But I do think that it's one single step, and I think there are more steps that we eventually evolve out of. You first have to step out of the industry, wherever that means, wherever that takes you. It's taking you out of that dependent system. It's a very dependent system. We are dependent on that system if you want to eat those kinds of foods, but yet you're working all the time and you can't be self-sufficient and raise your own cows or all of that. We need to step out of that dependency system and make better choices. For you, the animals, nature, the planet, Mother Earth, all of it, spirit.